Saraswati Devi Gaudavam Shashinabhari Paschati Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 We are, I think 65, 66?
Yes, we are reading from 64.
64, okay.
69, and then focusing on 65, 66.
We can't focus on 64?
We can, if you want to.
Wow. So I'll read, let's chant text. What's on the board? Anything? Put 64 on the board? You can chant that? Krishna. Do you really need a microphone for this room?
For the broadcasting.
This, but this. You don't need it. It's just kind of an obstacle to my lotus face. Right? Isn't it?
Yes.
Now you can see. Now you can see. Etam kansaya bhagavan. Chasham shabhyetya narada. Bhumer bharayam parayam annana. That was a tough one. Bhumer bharayam annanam. Tatyanam cha vadodyamam. Eta kamsaya bhagavan. Daityanam Shavadhoyamam. Eta Kamshaya Bhagavan. Chasa Samyeta Narada. So far, everyone's got the third one wrong, including me. Maybe I'll try it. Bhumer bharayamananam. Bharayamananam. Daityanam. Word meanings. Etat. All these words about the Yadu family and Vrishni family.
All these words about the Yadu family and Vrishni family.
Kamshaya, unto King Kamsa, Bhagavan, the most powerful representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
The most powerful representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Sushamsa, informed. Kamsa, who was in doubt. Abhyetya, after approaching him. Narada, the great sage Narada. Bhume, on the surface of the earth. Bharayamananam, of those who were a burden. Daityanam cha, and of the demons. Vadha udyamam uda, the endeavor to kill. Once the great sage Narada approached Kamsa and informed him of how the demoniac persons who were a great burden on the earth were going to be killed. Thus Kamsa was placed into great fear and doubt. So, Narada Muni he's trying to activate the pastimes of Krishna. So because eventually Krishna is going to kill Kamsa, but before Krishna kills Kamsa, he has to agitate Kamsa. And there's a whole history, so he's just acting as a catalyst to play out the history. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense why he's agitating the situation, because now the situation's pacified and he's agitating it. Child has been given to Kamsa and given back, everything's good. Kamsa said, it's only the 8th child, you don't have to worry. And then Narada's saying, no, it's not exactly like that. So, it looks like Narada is creating havoc, but he's speeding up, or he's energizing the Leelas. Yeah. So we have to read more verses, right? Yeah. 65, 66. After the departure of the great saint Narada, Kamsa thought that all the members of the Yadu dynasty were demigods, and that any of the children born from the womb of Devaki might be Vishnu. Fearing his death, Kamsa arrested Vasudeva and Devaki and chained them with iron shackles. Suspecting each of the children to be Vishnu, Kamsa killed them one after another because of the prophecy that Vishnu would kill him. Actually, there's a backstory. You know the backstory. These babies were, the demigods made an offense, and they had to take birth here, and so they got a blessing that would take birth and just die, but one of them would have to stay. Who knows who that was that had to stay? Bhishma. So they're called the Vasus. So it looks bad, but it was a plan. We don't want to, we're cursed to come to earth. We made some offense, we don't want to stay here. Okay. They'll take birth and go. And they represent different contaminations, so the different contaminations were killed. And then Devaki's womb is now pure. Just like Krishna can't sit in your heart if it's not pure. So anyway, that's the backstory. Should we read the purport? Is that? Yeah. Srila Jiva Goswami, in his notes on this verse, has mentioned how Narada Muni gave Kamsa this information. This incident is described in the Harivamsa. Narada Muni went to see Kamsa by providence, and Kamsa received him very well. Narada therefore informed him that any one of the sons of Devaki might be Vishnu. Because Vishnu was to kill him, why did he say that? He knew that wasn't true. But anyway, he had to activate everything that was supposed to happen. Narada Muni advised, because Vishnu was to kill him, Kamsa should not spare any of Devaki's children. Narada Muni advised. Narada's intention was that Kamsa, by killing the children, would increase his sinful activities so that Krishna would soon appear to kill him. Upon receiving the instructions of Narada Muni, Kamsa killed all the children of Devaki one after another. The word jana, shankaya, indicates that Lord Vishnu never takes birth. Anjana. Aja means unborn. And that he therefore appeared as Krishna, taking birth just like a human being. Manushim tanam ashritam. Kamsa attempted to kill all the babies born of Devaki and Vasudeva. Although he knew that if Vishnu were born, he would not be killed. Actually, what does that mean? Kamsa attempted to kill all the babies born of Devaki and Vasudeva, although he knew that if Vishnu were born, he would not be killed. Not that Kamsa wouldn't be killed, Krishna wouldn't be killed. Actually, it came to pass that when Vishnu appeared as Krishna, Kamsa could not kill him. Rather, as foretold, it was he who killed Kamsa. One should know in truth how Krishna, who takes his birth transcendentally, acts to kill the demons, but is never killed. When one perfectly understands Krishna in this way, through the medium of Shastra, one becomes immortal. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 4:9, Janma karma cha me divyam, evam yo veti tattataha takta deham punarjanma naiti mameti sarjana. How many of you know that verse? Raise your hand. How many of you don't? All right. Can you learn it? It's one basic, fundamental verse of Gita. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So, by reading Bhagavatam, especially the commentaries of the Acharyas, you can understand the Leelas of Krishna, which are difficult to understand. And if you just read the Bhagavatam and you didn't have the commentary, you'd be a bit confused. So, Krishna's saying in this verse, Janma, my birth, karma, is, my actions are divyam. Divyam means what? Transcendental. Janma karma chame divyam. Evam yo veti tattvata, and someone who knows the tattva, the truth about them, what happens to him? Evam yo veti tattva. Tyakta deha, when he gives up the deha, the body, punar janma, tyakta deha punar, again birth, naiti. No. Mameti comes to me, O Arjuna. So, by advancing in Krishna consciousness, by becoming purified, and by hearing from the spiritual master and the acharyas, reading Srila Prabhupada's commentary, then you can understand the transcendental nature of Krishna, which is difficult to understand for ordinary people, especially his rasa lila, his actions with the gopis, and his killing his uncle. What does God, it says, what does God do? Oh, he dances with other men's wives and he kills his uncle. And they'll think, okay, call the ambulance, take this man to the mental hospital. Yeah. Because our concept of God is someone who's highly moral because he's the source of all morality. And when Krishna performs his Leela, he's demonstrating that he is, number one, the controller, he's independent, he's transcendental, and he's the enjoyer, and he does what he wants, the way he wants. And we can't judge what Krishna does by our standards, because everything Krishna does is perfect. And so we come from that perspective, this is perfect, and these Leelas are meant for our purification. So you might say, well, why would Krishna dance with other men's wives? That's a statement that he can do it and you cannot do it. But people who misunderstand think, oh, he's setting a bad example, so I can do it, or I should do it. No, don't try this at home. That's the message. Everything Krishna does is to demonstrate he's not an ordinary person. So then someone may say, well, it's not right or whatever. But if he's meant to demonstrate that he's God, and he's better than everybody, so he has to do things that no one else can do. So he's not just a little better. So when Lord Ram came, he didn't come to fully exhibit that nature. So he did things like a powerful king. Somewhat like a god, but more like a king. And Krishna, he does things that confuse certain people who are attached to morality and too attached to dharma. They can't understand. Here is God, and he's stealing other men's wives. So from the point of view of a devotee, our idea is that we exist for Krishna's enjoyment, and if Krishna enjoys other men's wives, then we will help him. Of course, those other men's wives are also enjoying. They wanted it. And of course, those other men's wives were expansions of Krishna, so he's really just dancing with himself. Radha is an expansion of Krishna. She expands in the gopis. And so all those gopis are created for his enjoyment. So she can engage those gopis, and that gives Krishna pleasure. So from a spiritual perspective, we understand this has nothing to do with anything mundane. And that's what Krishna is saying here. That you cannot understand divine love unless you understand how the Leela works. Otherwise you see Radha and Krishna and you'll have the wrong idea. And when Radha and Krishna are together, Krishna and the gopis are together, that's the highest exchange of love. But to an untrained eye, it looks like lust, right? And they get confused. So this verse, Krishna is saying, if you study Shastra, if you practice bhakti, then you can understand my Leela, and if you can understand my Leela, when you will be transcendental also. That's how you become transcendental, by understanding Krishna's Leela. And then Krishna says, and if you become transcendental, then you will go to that transcendental world, into that eternal Leela. That's how you get there, you understand. So, we're chanting Hare Krishna, we're becoming purified. We're hearing Bhagavatam, we're becoming purified so that we can start to understand the Leela, which is vast and deep and broad. And this one Leela right here, you can read so many commentaries, and there's other books that describe more details. And, when Krishna does something, it's not limited in 3 dimensions in time and space. It can have unlimited aspects. And so, as devotees, one of the things that we do is we relish, we talk about the Leelas, and by talking about them, it's as if Krishna is there in the Leela and we're in the Leela. We get absorbed, we transcend, we're no longer on this plane. While you're hearing the Leela, you're in a transcendental position. When you stop hearing the Leela, that's another thing, who knows? But while you're hearing the Leela, you're in a transcendental position. So at some point in your life, you'll always be absorbed in the Leela, and then you're always transcendental. Prabhupada said something interesting. He said, when you're chanting, you should be meditating on Krishna Leela. That's the highest level. He said, but if you can't do that, just chant and hear. So it's kind of like, well, if you're a pure devotee, when you chant name of Krishna, you'll think of Krishna's form and his Leela and his qualities, because wherever there's a person, there's all those 3, right? The form, the qualities, and the activities. So it's natural to think of it, but as a conditioned soul, it's not so natural. You have to force yourself. Think of the Leela, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Think of the Leela, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Think of the Leela. Yeah. So Prabhupada said, don't do that. That's not the way you do it. He said, if you're not there, you just hear, like what we talked about last night. You hear, you pray, you chant, and eventually, in a more purified state, when you say Krishna, that means everything, the Leela. And then when you're pure devotee, you don't see the Leela, you are in the Leela. You're not looking at the movie of the Leela, you're in it, looking out. That's why you're chanting Hare Krishna. You're gone. You're not here. So you can look forward to that. So what Krishna is saying in this verse in Gita, it's necessary to understand the Leela to go back to Godhead. You're not going to be allowed to go back to Godhead if you misunderstand the Leela. They won't let you in because you won't fit. How do you misunderstand the Leela? You don't accept that everything is for Krishna's enjoyment. His sweet will is everything, and we just serve that sweet will. We don't say, well, I don't think it was right that Krishna killed Kamsa. After all, he was his uncle, and that wasn't very nice. He could have been a little more empathetic. They could have had some mediation. I'm sure they could have worked it out. You don't say that. You say, this is Krishna's will, this is Krishna's desire. We facilitate it, we praise it, we honor it. Of course, Kamsa is liberated by it. Nobody suffers in Krishna Leela. So that is a devotee. And if If we can't understand, why did Krishna do this? I can't understand. Then you just stop there. I can't understand yet, and maybe someday I'll understand. You don't like take it to a mundane level, because these leelas are not mundane. For example, sometimes devotees would try to figure out, how does the spiritual world work? This is a perverted reflection of that world. So everything there is eternal. Everything there is blissful. There's no material bodies. There's no matter. And so devotees are trying to, well, how does that work? You know, like, how do you eat if everything's eternal? Like, try to figure that out. Here's a carrot. The carrot is Satchit Ananda. It's eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. I'm eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. Everything's eternal. How do you eat? How does that work? You know, it's like, you think you're going to understand that now? And so that question was asked to Prabhupada. And of course, he couldn't explain it to anyone, because we are, from this world looking up, we are limited. And Prabhupada said, you will have to go back. And when you go back, you will understand. So that is something we have to accept, our limitation. Because our experience is in 3 dimensions, birth and death. Just the word eternal, like how do you conceive of that? Because all we know is our birth date. We don't know anything before that. And so we only know beginning and end, and then eternal. And how do you conceive of Krishna's eternal, Radha's eternal, Balaram's eternal, we're eternal, and Krishna created all of them and us. How do you create if you're eternal? Like, Nityo Nityanam. Everyone's eternal, but there's one supreme eternal that everyone depends on. You know? So these are ideas that intellectually they're not understandable, but they're understandable through a purified heart. And the prize of Krishna consciousness, the ultimate prize, is you can understand these leelas and you can experience that love that Krishna has for his devotees. When you hear the highest, in the center of the universe is the love of Radha and Krishna. That's what exists there. That's the highest thing. And Mahaprabhu is giving us access to that love. And if we're pure, we can access it and experience it. Otherwise, you want to experience the love of this world, and then you can't experience that love. Well, I should say, the lust of this world. So the prize of Krishna consciousness is to be able to experience the love of Radha and Krishna. And so some people say, why do I have to control my senses? Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to chant so many rounds? Isn't one enough? And, why have to get up so early? Why can't I get up at 8:30? And why this and why that? Well, you don't have to do any of that. But that's how you become purified, to experience the love that Radha and Krishna has. And that's ultimately what your heart wants. There's nothing more than that. There's nothing greater than that. So that's the price you're paying for eternity. And that's the price you're paying for this verse. Tyakta deha punarjanma. You won't take birth again. You come to me. So when Krishna says, one who understands the transcendental nature of my birth and actions, that if you unpack that means 4 regulative principles, chanting your rounds, rising early, so doing so many things, studying Shastra, discussing with devotees, serving devotees. It means all of that. Then you become qualified to understand the Leela. And when you understand that Leela, actually you can enter into it. So like imagine you had an island. And you had all your friends and family there, and anybody who wanted could come there if they loved you. But you can't come if you don't understand me. You can't love me. If you don't understand me, you don't love me. You're not allowed on this island. So it's like, you imagine you went back to Godhead, right? And everyone's honoring Krishna, and you go, hey, how come you're all neglecting me? How come you're not honoring me and worshiping me? Why are you just worshiping him? That would ruin everything. So if you have that mood, you're unqualified, right? But if you love Krishna, you accept him as the supreme enjoyer, and you are serving his enjoyment, then tyakta deha punar, no more birth. You're qualified to go. just as you would not allow anybody on your island who didn't understand you, because if they didn't understand you, they would wonder, why is everybody loving you? Why don't I get some action here? Why don't I get some attention? Which is what we're doing here, right? Does that make sense? Okay, we're supposed to read 3 more verses? Up through 69? This is text 67. Kings greedy for sense gratification on this earth almost always kill their enemies indiscriminately. To satisfy their own whims, they may kill anyone, even even their mothers, fathers, brothers, or friends. Text 68. In his previous birth, Kamsa had been a great demon named Kalanemi, and been killed by Vishnu. Upon learning this information from Narada, Kamsa became envious of everyone connected with the Yadu dynasty. Did you see that in the Shringa movie, Prahlad?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think when you watch that movie, you see like this whole thing is like, Prahlad, you're worshiping the enemy of our family because Lord Vishnu killed my brother. So it's like, it's like the same thing here, Comes like anybody connected with Vishnu, we don't like, because it is predicted that Vishnu will kill me, and he killed me in the last life. So he's our enemy. So that was Hiranyakasipu. Vishnu was the enemy of the family, but his son was worshiping Vishnu. So it's like, you're worshiping our enemy. And that's why he tried to kill him. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. These are endnotes at the end of the chapter. Wow. So that's from page 89 to page 102. That's all after this verse. I don't know. So, the last verse of this chapter. Kamsa, the most powerful son of Ugrasena, even imprisoned his own father, the king of the Yadu dynasty, Bhoja and Andaka dynasties, and personally ruled the states known as Surasena. So, something that you find in Bhagavatam is you find stories of great kings and you find stories of very evil kings. And as evil or more evil than any person that's lived since them. So, you arrest your own father, you kill your own nephews, like this is like, but it makes a point that someone who has power and is interested in their own well-being can do anything because they have the power to do it. And a righteous person yields power for the welfare of others. He has power, he has more power than others, but he uses that power to serve. So he's always putting himself subordinate and always serving. And demoniac person takes that power, this is for me, and he'll do anything. He'll cause any kind of pain to others if that serves his purpose. And we see that in the world today, and Kamsa is an example of that. Now we, as devotees, sometimes will be given power. Prabhu, you're in charge of this, and these 3 devotees will serve you. And you're like, okay, now I'll do anything I want. I'm entitled to harass them, scream at them, yell at them, whatever, because I'm in charge, and they're just supposed to do what I say. For lack of a better word, I will just say that's demoniac. Just to shake you up a bit. And anyone who has any authority or any power who is not mature sometimes gets confronted by this temptation to exploit and manipulate people, because that's an inherent desire. And the greatness of a great person, or one aspect of a great person is you give them power and it'll only be used for benevolence. It'll only be used for service. And they'll always even though externally they have a superior position, internally they'll always feel that I'm a servant. They'll never feel above. Just like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, it is said that whenever his disciples would pay obeisances to him, he would say, Dasosmi. That's Bengali for Das, I am your servant, Asmi. Das servant, Asmi, I am. And he said something amazing. He said, no matter what a pure devotee achieves in terms of resources, followers, wealth, opulence, facility, nothing ever budges his realization that I'm simply servant of the servant of the servant. But for us, it's very easy. If I give you a little praise, I put you in a position, it's very easy to forget that I'm servant of the servant and start to think I'm the man, I'm the woman here, okay, I'm better. Because we all want to be better. That's why we came here, to lord, Prabhupada uses the word lord it over. We all want to control and be better, and so we're given a position okay, I'm better. And I'm entitled to harass you and abuse you. And this is it's a real issue in the world today, isn't it? And I'm reading a paper on abuse. And it's abuse in religious organizations and abuse in nonprofits, abuse in companies, because it's so common. And the way they frame it is that it's called a power imbalance. So I am in charge, so I have the power, and you have to do what I say. So I could theoretically exploit you. And and you'll think, well, I have to do. He's in charge. I have to do what he says. So I need you to work late and this, that, and whatever, where it's even against the rules of the company, and you just have to do what I say, etc. Anyway, so advancement in Krishna consciousness means that I realize I'm the servant and I respect. Material consciousness means you serve me. So we see that with these demoniac kings. It's very clear here in Bhagavatam. Kamsa is just about what's ever good for Kamsa. It doesn't matter. Kill 7 children, kill 8 children, no problem. Kill your sister, no problem. She's in the way of your sense gratification. Just kill her. No heart. It's only for me. And devotee is exactly the opposite. All heart. How can I serve you? How can I help you? If I'm given a position of authority, it's only to serve. There's no other reason. That's it. So, you have any questions, comments, arguments? Yes?
Thank you for your class, Prabhu. You mentioned in regards to Leela that we can make it back to Godhead if we don't understand Leela. And so I guess my question is, how do we understand? And I think you quoted Prabhupada saying that Prabhupada would say, go back and when you go back, you'll understand. But then you mentioned that you can't go back if we don't understand.
Well, those were unimportant details, which is why Prabhupada didn't answer that. But the Leela, that's the prasadam Leela. How do they eat? It's not so important. But Krishna's Leela is what purifies us and what we have to understand. And the basis for understanding that is that Krishna's sweet will is everything, and we are the servants. And if you want to get a little scary, we're actually the slaves, but it's the slave of love. So in the material world, who wants to be a slave? Although we all become slaves of love, we don't want to become Krishna's slave. So, you say, why did Krishna do this? It's his sweet will. That's how a devotee looks at it, processes. It's just his sweet will. And so we don't question. So that's understanding the Leela. And specifically understanding the Leela means to understand that his Leelas have nothing to do with lust. His stealing has nothing to do with stealing. His actions with the gopis have nothing to do with lust. And his killing has nothing to do with ordinary killing, and we have to understand the pure nature of it. Right? Like Bhishma being killed, he wanted to be. Like if you don't understand that, it's like why is Krishna fighting in the battle? He broke his promise. He's lying. He's telling Yudhisthira to lie. All these things. And if you come at it from a moral perspective, you'll misunderstand, right? So the understanding behind all that is Krishna's sweet will is everything, and it's not mundane. It's not material. Now it's time to do tapasya. Hare Krishna. I think the biggest challenge is, or the biggest demand, is to understand the highest leelas, but the highest leelas with Radha, and we approach it through Shastra, through knowledge. The Lord Chaitanya came to give this, to this understanding of the highest love. And so he taught the Goswamis, and the Goswamis were meant to teach this love, because otherwise you wouldn't understand. And who are the Goswamis? They're gopis, manjaris. So they're most qualified to teach it. And so he came to give this love, Raganuga Bhakti, Ragatmika Bhakti, pure love, spontaneous, and as the residents of Braja have it, that nobody's going to understand it unless someone explains it. So the Goswamis wrote so many books to explain, this is not mundane. And if you take it as mundane, it's like drinking poison. You just like destroy your spiritual life. So how do you understand the love of Radha and Krishna? Well, follow the regular principles. Start there. Because if you're imitating Krishna, you can't understand him at the same time. You want 108 gopis to dance with? You're not going to understand him. But some sahajis, they say, no, you have to have your own gopis to understand Krishna Leela. Yeah. Yes.
Are sahajis bona fide?
What?
Are sahajis bona fide?
Well, depends which ones you're talking about, but there are 13 apasampradayas, bogus sampradayas. And so any sampradaya which is not promoting sensual control or not promoting proper siddhanta is problematic. And so there are sahajiya groups. Some of them dress up like gopis, men dress up like gopis, others have girlfriends. And believe you have to, in order to understand Krishna's rasa with Radha, you have to have your own girlfriends and do the same thing. So of course, the Goswamis came and taught renunciation, sense control, taught the position of Krishna. So if we're to understand the highest Leela, we have to be free from lust, otherwise we project that on the Leela. And therefore, sometimes it's said, if you're not free from lust, you can't even read those Leelas, because you'll get disturbed by them, because you'll see them materially. But if you see them spiritually, you get purified of lust. Right? So how can you approach the Leela unless you're purified? And then when you're purified, you approach the Leela, and then you enter into it, then you understand the intricacies of the love of Radha and Krishna, and then you get to experience that love. You get to experience some of that ecstasy by hearing about it, by understanding from the commentaries. So that's what Krishna is saying. If you can understand his Leela, if you understand the love of Radha and Krishna, you're out of here. This life, that's it. You're gone. And so when people are asking, well, why do we have to control our senses? So that you can understand that love that's beyond sensual gratification. And if you don't control, you won't be able to understand it. Or maybe you'll understand it intellectually, but you won't be able to experience it. Because you're trying to choose some mundane taste. How can you experience that? Correct?
Right.
Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu. I just had a follow-up. I've met a few persons who actually say that okay, you should not go for higher leelas, read nectar of devotion till this page, and then don't read further.
Mhm.
and don't read so and so chapter in Krishna book. But practically speaking, in that way, we it's all like even Lord Shiva got agitated by us.
Yeah.
So should we read those? Should we not read them?
Well, you should read them with reverence because Prabhupada gave us the nectar of devotion, so he expected us to read it. And I had been a devotee. I had been in the movement 8 months when Nectar of Devotion came out. So, but he told us to read it, and someone wrote back. I don't know who. Maybe it was me. I can't remember. But someone wrote Prabhupada and said, at a certain point in Nectar of Devotion, we don't understand anything. Should we read it? And Prabhupada said, yes, just read through it and read it and read it and read it until you understand it. Now, it's not a problem because you're following the principles of bhakti. The problem is when you think you're on a level qualified to study, to just I'm just going to study Radha and Krishna Leela, that's it. That's when you have trouble. Because you study the whole Bhagavatam, all the Leelas, you study all the Shastras, all the books, all the philosophy, and you understand your disqualification to understand Radha Krishna Leela. So you approach it in reverentially. Then you're okay. But if you think, well, let's have a class every day just on Ras Leela, then you're in trouble. Because you'll start doing your own Ras Leela if you're not careful. Yes?
Is it possible to cultivate the mood of serving, or does it only come through experience?
We should cultivate it and we should pray for it. And that's what we're doing when we're chanting. We're praying for that mood. The desire to enjoy is deeply rooted within our heart, and it's kind of the most. It's the thing. That's why we're here. That's the perversion of love of Krishna's, the desire to enjoy matter. So that is our prayer, and when we're chanting, that definitely is our prayer. Krishna, please remove this desire, because it's so strong. And you are the supreme enjoyer, and I'm your servant, but I still want to enjoy your creation. I see something beautiful, I want to enjoy it. It's all meant for you, not meant for me. So Krishna says, okay, I know you can't control yourself entirely, so you can have one wife, one husband, one house, a couple cars, this, that, and the next thing. But don't go overboard, because you're not the enjoyer. And use that for me. That's how whatever needs you have to fulfill them, but you fulfill them in a way that it doesn't agitate the disease. So your medicine is to fulfill the needs you have in a way that helps you ultimately become more advanced, not in a way that's going to make you more entangled, right? So I'm the enjoyer. That's why I'm here. I want to enjoy everything I can. I become a devotee and they tell me, you're not the enjoyer. Nothing belongs to you. This is all for service. I go, okay, that makes sense. I got it in my head. It all makes sense. And my heart still wants to enjoy. So I'm living a kind of schizophrenia. Head understands, heart wants to enjoy. Okay, what do I do now? Can I just give up the desire to enjoy? Well, I'm studying Shastra. It says give it up. I'm trying to understand why I should give it up. I have a lot of experience. I've been frustrated in the material world. There's a lot of good reasons to give it up, but the heart has that desire. I'm a conditioned soul. Okay, so now you have to satisfy those desires in a way that doesn't agitate them, but it actually eliminates them, because I can't eliminate them entirely on my own. Right? Maybe we should decide that for breakfast from now on, you get a half an orange, a half an apple, 8 chickpeas, and a half cup of yogurt, which was the breakfast we had in San Francisco in 1970 in the temple. But that breakfast was at 5:15 in the morning, and lunch was at 10, and we went out on Harinam after that. That's another story. But let's say we decided to do that, and a couple of you say, yeah, that's a good idea. We should do more austerity, right? I'm running a business. Every time she says sorry, I'm going to make her pay $10. 'Cause I'll at least make $150 a day. By the end of the year, I can retire. So, some of you might say, yeah, I think we should do more austerity. That would be good for our Krishna consciousness, right? And so you do that for a few days, and some of you are like, this is beautiful. I'm sleeping less, my mind is clear, I feel very calm. And others of you are saying, I'm going completely insane. I can't do this. I'm ready to like hit somebody. Right? So we say, okay, why don't we try a whole apple, a whole orange, and 16 chickpeas, and a whole cup of yogurt? And I'm like, okay, let's try that. And then a few days later, some of you are saying, I'm still going crazy, not as crazy, but close to it. And say, okay, well, let's add some cereal to it. You know, we go up and say, where's that point where you just say, that's enough, I'm satisfied? That's what we're trying to do materially, to fulfill our needs. Just, I have these needs on the conditioned soul. Some of you may, have been sadhus in your last life, and you don't need all this. You're just like, yeah, I don't need all this. I don't even need breakfast. And I don't need to sleep much, and I can chant 25 rounds, no problem. Okay, fine, do it. Some of you are like, I could hardly chant 16, and I need to eat 3 big meals a day, and I need like more rest. And okay, up to the point that you need, that's Krishna consciousness. Beyond that is sense gratification. Up to here is what you need. So it might look like, for this brahmachari, what you're doing might look like sense gratification, because he's by nature austere. I have godbrothers who are very renounced, and they were like that the day they joined. They were just like into fasting and getting up early, and like the day they were bhaktas, that's what they did. They don't just have that kind of body and mind. They didn't need it. And now they're like sannyasis, and all of us who knew them when they're young, like, of course, you're like, you were always austere, even as a bhakta. So when you find what you need, that may be way higher than what this other devotee needs. But that's okay, as long as it doesn't enter the realm of sense gratification. That still means that you're trying to serve Krishna, right? Krishna is the enjoyer. Just, I need a little more to satisfy my body, my mind, whatever is necessary. And now I can peacefully serve Krishna, and I can still make Krishna the supreme enjoyer. Because when I eat more than you do, at least I eat prasadam, and he enjoyed it first. Right? So as long as he enjoys it first, that's good. And I'm sleeping a little more than you, but why am I doing that? So I can serve. I'm not doing it because I just want to zone out. I'm doing it because I want to serve. When you lay down at night, you should always think, I'm doing this for service. When you take prasadam, I'm doing this for service. So I have enough so that I'm healthy. Everything. If you need to get married, I'm doing this for service. Better be married than have 3 girlfriends. Or 3 boyfriends, right? That's the idea. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
This is very important. It's like what is sense gratification for one person is just a need, a normal need. Like, in the old days in India when ISKCON started, they weren't getting people from IIT, they were getting a lot of people from the village. I don't know why. Maybe they were doing a lot of village programs. And so the village boys adapted quite well to the brahmachari ashram. They could, you could have 40 of them, 50 of them sleep in a room like this and have 2 toilets and 2 showers, and they're like, that's better than my house. Like no problem. My house, there were 80 of us, and we only had 1 toilet, and it was 10 miles away from our house. And we had to bathe in the river. That was a mile away. So they look like they're really austere and really advanced. It's just that's how they grew up. They grew up poor, and that's how it was. They don't know what a heater is. They don't know what air conditioning is. They don't know what hot water is. And you grew up in a super wealthy family, and you had your own bedroom in a 5,000 square foot house, and you had your own car when you were 16, and your parents pampered you. So, you have different samskars. And so you need more than them to get to zero. So their zero and your zero look a lot different. Yours looks like sense gratification, and theirs looks like austerity. But inside your mind, they might be thinking, when's that day going to come when I get a car and a house and this and that? And you might be thinking, yeah, this is just normal for me. So it's kind of like you have to decide what you need, what's normal. And at different points of your life, needs will change. When you're younger, less. You get a little older, they're more. Then you get a little older, they're less. It's just the way life is, right? Correct? ठीक? Anything else? Yes.
Prabhu, you said austerity for everyone looks different, like zeros for everyone is different. And then how, if I'm doing more austerity, then someone is doing less austerity, how do we see that, oh, they are doing okay in their capacity?
Not become critical of them or something?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a good question because we all have a different past and we all take the Krishna consciousness in a different way. And so for some it's a little easier. So I think one thing you can notice is that we have devotees in our movement that never married. And some of them take sannyas. And you'll never see them put down grihastas. Oh, you're fallen, you got married, you know. You never see them. They have godbrothers who've taken a grihasta ashram and they never feel better and they're always respectful. And the reason is because as you progress in devotional service, you respect more. So if you look at someone and think, oh, I'm more austere, whatever, it's actually contamination in your own heart. Because we should look at everyone with appreciation. That's a sign of your advancement. Even Prabhupada sometimes would say, you are all teaching me, you're so sincere in how you serve me, you're teaching me how I should serve my guru. I'm learning from you. Obviously Prabhupada is, light years above us, and he's saying, I'm learning from you how to serve my guru. So that's the nature of pure devotee. And so you might say, well, I'm doing all this austerities and these other devotees aren't, so it would be natural for me to be a little critical or whatever. It's only natural for a conditioned soul, not for a pure devotee. So when we say natural, we mean natural for a contaminated person. That's what we mean. But not natural for a pure devotee. Right? So anytime you're critical of another person, it would really help you if you think it's not about the person and what they're doing, it's about me. Like, why do I need to criticize? Why do I need to focus on that? The problem is, okay, they may have a problem, whatever, but it doesn't matter. It's not my concern. And even if it is my concern, I don't have to look at it in a negative way. My concern is to help them. But if I need to criticize them, criticism always comes from a superior position. Like, who's criticizing who? The one who thinks they're better. So the problem now is I think I'm better. The problem is that I'm criticizing when I don't have to. It's unnecessary. So the problem's with me. Everyone's evolving on a different level. You can't expect everyone's going to be the same. And there's another problem, which is a big problem, that if you criticize someone, that criticism that you make of that person can come back and infect you. You could have the same problem. And it works that way when you praise, so better praise. I'll praise, you have such good qualities, you're so nice, you're so this and that. It'd be nice if those qualities came back to me. But I criticize you, you're useless, you're a bum, you can't control yourself. And that comes back to me. That's interesting. That's something to be cautious about. I mean, I've heard that from very elevated devotees, that criticism is a boomerang. Whatever you criticize will come back. So I just felt that if that's true, the opposite should be true as well. That whenever you glorify a person for their goodness, that should infect you also. So be careful. So when you look at someone, objectively you can say, I'm doing better and it's disturbing me and whatever, for whatever reason, but just think that disturbance is your problem. It's not their problem. It's not caused by them. It's your problem. And they just, it's like you see a beautiful woman and it arouses lust in you. It's not her fault. That's your fault. So it's not, this Prabhu is not as advanced as you and you're getting disturbed. It's not his fault. It's your fault. When we were young devotees, young brahmacharis and stupid and immature, and we didn't like women. We would say, the women are lusty. But the fact was we were lusty. And their presence brought out our lust, and we misinterpreted that as their lust. It's very immature. So a lot of times people bring out the worst in us. But if someone brings out the worst in you, obviously the worst is already in you. And they're just bringing it out. They're not creating it. Right? So she didn't create your lust. He didn't create your criticism. So that's how we see it. And then we rectify ourselves. Because if you're blaming somebody for your faults, then you can't, the only way you could solve the problem is for that other person to get it. Prabhu, I'm becoming very critical. If you just became a better devotee, I wouldn't be critical. That would really help me stop criticizing. I don't think that's the process for overcoming criticism, do you? Rectifying the other person. No. Mm-mm. We should stop, right? Okay. Thank you. Okay, one more.
Krishna Prabhu, I'm Govind. So, I have always a curiosity in one thing. So, I came here last year, 1.5 years ago. So, I have lots of desire when I came here, and that makes me, in trouble, because I think so much. I will do this, I will do that, I will do this. And step by step, everything's happened, step by step. So that was maybe a God plan. And that
You fulfilled your desire? Or you got frustrated?
me?
Step by step means you fulfilled your desire?
Yeah, little by little, what I was expecting, So I was gathering experience, and Lord Krishna wanted me to get experience to fulfill those desires. But when I realized, those desires are not my actual desires.
Yes.
Those are something that is pulling me up to get something I aimed at. But the best thing I learned is satisfaction. Whatever, whenever I have something, and at the time, whatever I have right now, whatever I desire, and the time when I don't have nothing. So it's saying, I come to here. If I have nothing also, I come here. If I have everything also, I come here. That means there's a satisfaction here.
Yes.
So wherever I go now, I just connect with Krishna, and whatever I can do to...
Beautiful. And also, if you have everything material, you still have nothing spiritual, so you still have nothing. Right? So that's it. Yes? Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So we're going to take breakfast. Srila Prabhupada ki